$1.7 trillion. Yeah, that's the amount of student loan debt that this country, the United States, we're carrying as borrowers. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about student loan cancellation, student loan forgiveness. What does it mean for borrowers, as well as will it actually happen? What do I think about it? And I'll give you my perspective on what might be the best solution to tackle this crisis, as well as how do we completely change this for the future so that we're not keep on having to come back to the same problem over and over again. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Sam Kwok here, one of the Kwok Brothers, and today we're going to talk about student loan cancellation as well as student loan forgiveness. Now, I often share my opinion as well as my thoughts on our live shows on Friday, which I highly encourage you guys to go and attend and check out. But today we're going to focus on the conversation that's been taking place a lot in the media as well as the public, and that is the student loan forgiveness. And also, President Joe Biden on his campaign also mentioned that he has plans of loan forgiveness. Now, I do have mixed opinions as well as mixed feelings about this, but what I don't have mixed feelings about is for you to go and subscribe to our channel, as well as share this video if you guys are enjoying this so far. And of course, if you have any thoughts about student loans, go and leave your thoughts down below. So right now, according to the Federal Reserve, back in Q3 of 2020, so that was about last year, around October and November-ish, the Federal Reserve estimates that the country now owes $1.7 trillion in student loans. I'm mainly focused on talking about the United States, and I'm pretty sure that other countries have similar issues or problems, but for right now, I have data and concerns about the United States, as you know, that's where I'm from. So let's go and talk about student loans. Now, right out of the gate, let me share the fact that I am not a big fan of student loans, and I'm quite honestly not a big fan of the current educational system and the way that it's funded. So many of you guys probably share the same feelings about student loans, and some of you are even proposing a straight out cancellation and forgiveness of all student loans. So let's go and talk about, is that a good idea, yes or no? And what are some of the complications and roadblocks behind forgiving student loans? Now, right now, even President Joe Biden has made recent remarks that he might even be backing out using executive orders to cancel student debt and leaving Congress to take charge. Now, I'm not a political commentator, but some say that this is more of a political move to shift the responsibility of forgiving and canceling student loans, or let's go and call it dealing and solving the student loan crisis, to Congress. Now, from a political perspective, a lot of people are saying that he's simply shifting the blame and the responsibility to Congress in case he fails to deliver. So regardless who tackles the student loan crisis, whether Congress or the president or the individual people, I want to share what are some of the complications and roadblocks ahead when it comes to dealing with the student loan crisis. And of course, I'll share my perspective on what might be the best solution to deal with this problem, as well as providing remedy for the future of student loans as well. So the first roadblock ahead is that the current tax law treats all forgiven and canceled debt as income. So for example, if the government forgives $50,000 of your student loan, well, next year when you file your taxes, according to the current laws, you have to also report $50,000 as income added onto the top of your income. So for example, if you're making about $36,000 a year, well, according to the IRS 2021 tax bracket, you'd be paying about 12% on that income, or any amount above $14,000. How the law will look at this is that they'll take your $36,000 income that you earn through your hard work, plus $50,000 of the student loans that were forgiven, and they add it together, which means that your new total income will be $86,000. Now, you are at 12% tax bracket at the $36,000 level, but as soon as $50,000 is introduced, now your new tax rate is 22% from 12% on any amount above $40,526. So essentially, your tax bill may be doubled if your student loan does get forgiven. An example is $50,000. Now, the numbers I've used only applies to single filers, not necessarily for married or individuals that are filing as a head of the household. So I do encourage you guys to go and speak to a tax professional for more of an accurate estimate. Of course, I'm not a tax professional, so you guys definitely would want to have a conversation with your tax professional about this, but that is one roadblock ahead. So hypothetically speaking, if there were to be a program that cancels all student loans and all student debt across the board, well, the government also has to figure out how to deal with taxpayers all of a sudden realizing that they're going to have to pay double, if not more, in terms of the taxes that they may pay because of the current tax law. So the tax laws may have to be modified or changed or somehow be balanced with the fact that, well, there's approximately $1.7 trillion of free money that's now released to the economy, but how does the government deal with that when it comes to taxes? So that is one potential roadblock that I do see when it comes to how do we actually deal with the student loan crisis and how do we go about effectively canceling or forgiving them. Now, the next roadblock has to do with the fact that there are a group of people that already have paid for their student loans, or they're in the process of paying for their student loans right now. Now, the counter argument or the opposition against student loan forgiveness and cancellation has to do with individuals that already paid for their student loans, or they're done with paying their student loans, or they're in the process of paying their student loans. But on the opposite side, there's a group of people who didn't have to pay their student loans and the government's simply taking care of that. So the question is it fair that one group got their student loans forgiven and another group that had to still pay for their student loans, and they're working really, really hard to do that? So if the student loans were to be forgiven or to be canceled, will the people who paid for their loans completely will get a refund or some kind of rebate? So this is simply not a price tag of $1.7 trillion, because where do we draw the line as far as who gets a rebate or a refund on the student loans that they actually paid, or they're done paying their student loans? Who will qualify? So that's a much bigger issue as far as not just dealing with the individuals that have existing student debts right now, but how do we also work with individuals that already paid for their student loans, maybe literally a day before a student loan forgiveness program is released? I mean, imagine being that person where you made your last student loan payment today, and tomorrow all of a sudden they release a broad student loan forgiveness program, and you're like, what the heck? Why did I just pay that, right? So you can see that the second roadblock does ask some really complicated question as far as, well, we don't really have an easy answer for that. And that leads to having to solve a more difficult problem, and that is, well, how do we solve the future of student loans as well? Sure, we can forgive student loans today, but what about the individuals and students that graduate with student loans tomorrow? So in order for there to be any kind of student loan crisis solution, there has to be a first solution that deals with the future of all student loans as well as how education is funded. So I think we first need to start with the future of all student loans as well as funding for higher education, because without that, we're going to just continue to make loans and we're going to come back to the same problem over and over again. It's kind of like having a bucket where there's a hole and we're trying to fill the bucket with water and it just keeps on leaking, and we're not really solving the root of the problem, which is we need to stop this from happening over again, because we certainly don't want to have to come back 50 years from now and ask the same questions and have the same exact problem as we did today. Last but not least with the roadblock, and it pains me to describe this, and that is Wall Street banks are securitizing student loans just like what they did with subprime mortgages back in 2005 through 2008. Now that caused the whole 2008 financial collapse. So in plain English, what this basically means is that Wall Street banks are taking these individual student loans, thousands of these student loans, and they're packaging and grouping them together into a one mega giant student loan and calling it slabs, which is called student loan asset-backed securities. Now, what they do with this is that they then sell this one mega giant student loan called slabs to investors, to 401k, IRAs, certain tax-deferred retirement vehicles for profit. So the question now becomes, what happens to these investments if the student loans are to be canceled? I mean, after all, these investments rely on the fact that the borrowers are paying interest, therefore the investments are actually making money for the investors. Well, one of the main reasons why these investments are so attractive to investors is because the loans are backed by the government. So a large majority, in fact, most of all student loans out there are backed by the federal government in case something does go wrong. For example, if a large group of student loan borrowers don't end up making their payments, the government steps in to assist and help the individual banks. So you can see that a broad stroke cancellation or forgiveness of student debt is much more complicated than you think, and there are unintended consequences if there were to be a broad stroke student loan cancellation. But I do want to share my perspective as to what I think is the best solution to not only dealing with the student loan crisis, as well as dealing with the future of financing higher education and funding education overall. So one of the main key things to my idea of future of financing for education is to go back to the apprenticeship and mentorship model for training new individuals for their job and their career. Now, back in the day, I mean, we're talking about long time ago, ancient days, if let's say I want to become a blacksmith, I would essentially work for a blacksmith for 6, 8, or even 10 years for myself to become a master and to also independently work as a blacksmith. So to learn a new skill in a craft, you would have to work for somebody who is already a master for a certain amount of time to acquire that skill. Now, of course, a lot of the skill sets today have become complicated or complex, such as programming, engineering, and some of the other more awesome jobs out there. But I still do believe that this model can be duplicated or modified for a more modern application. So as an example, how this may work is, let's say we have Apple, the company that creates iPhones and amazing electronic products. Let's say they're looking to hire 1,000 more people in the next 20 to 30 years. So what Apple would do with my idea and my model, or some of the suggestions that I would give, is to fund the education of the potential hirees, but give them a contract of saying, hey, we're going to go and fund your education for you to become an engineer or a product developer or a marketer. In exchange, you have to work for our company for 8 years, but you would also have a reduced pay. Now, in regards to this idea, not only do I believe this is more of a balanced approach, but you're equipping the next generation of employees and workers at a specific company. Now, the prospective employee does not have to worry about getting a job because they already have a job lined up to train for. In other words, the prospective employee now knows what type of education they should get, what type of training they should get for a set guaranteed job that they know they will get at the end of their training. Now, this model is similar to what the military does, and I picked this up from the United States military. I had the honor and privilege of serving for the United States Army, and that's what the Army does, is they pick up recruits and they give them a specific guaranteed job that they would do after the training. And what's nice is that the recruit knows what job they will perform after a period of training. So just like how the military trains its recruits, I believe that we can take some of that idea and apply it to the other parts of public sector and private sectors as well. Not only does this train the employee for a specific job that they know they're going to walk away and get, but looking at the employer's perspective, not only does it help them to create a specific training program and a curriculum for any new employees and new hires, but also has a guaranteed employee for a set amount of time, whether that may be 4 years, 8 years, or even 10 years, like the military model. So just to kind of recap and summarize my idea, it would be up to the individual companies to create their own education system that is offered for free, but in exchange that the students will now have to work for the company for a set amount of years, which is great for the students and the graduate as well as the employer. Because with that idea, there's some balance to the value proposition, meaning that the employee will get some kind of education and training and pay. The employer gets retention and also well-trained working professionals that work for their company. Now, to add another layer to the idea is to also decentralize the education system, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what I just described with Apple offering job training and all. And how that works is incentivizing individual companies, small businesses, to offer apprenticeship model for free at a reduced pay. Now, I ultimately believe that not all people should go to college, and I believe that there are other avenues of getting education, not just from a 4-year degree. For example, right now, there's a huge shortage of people in trades, people who can paint, who could do contract work, who can build houses, who can do concrete work, who can lay carpets. I think there's a huge shortage of people that can do that. So I would like to see individual companies, small and big, offering incentives and offering more apprenticeship to train future employees and train future hires and to train the next generation of workers who could do really, really well in the economy. And I think we should do less of trying to force our kids down the path of college, because I don't necessarily think that all high school graduates and students should and must go to college. I think there are different paths that are equally profitable. In fact, might be better because some students have different strengths and weaknesses, and college just may not be for them. So I believe there should be a decentralized version of our current education system, or at least a less emphasis on college education and more emphasis on some of the other options that are available, so that we can have more skilled workers with construction, trade, and also we have amazing people that are attorneys, doctors, and lawyers. Our economy relies on different people, employees, and professionals from different industry for the economy to work. And I don't think pushing college education and pushing college for everybody is the answer. So I believe we should have more of a decentralized model for small businesses to offer apprenticeship, to offer private education, and get individuals trained up for the next generation of work. So with my suggestions and my perspective, and again, these are simply my ideas and opinions based on my observation, I think this is going to help with students getting less into student debt and also help increase the pay and help individuals find their true passion and where they want to be. If they want to start a business, awesome. If they want to go into trades, great. If they want to go to college to ultimately become doctors, awesome. But I think we need to create equal opportunity across the board, decentralize the education, but also change the way that education is funded in such ways that students are not graduating with immense amount of debt. I think there should be a better way for us to fund education and at the same time provide security for students that are graduating college that are looking for a job. So with that being said, I sincerely do wish that we can solve the student loan crisis, and I think there is a way, and I've suggested a solution. I don't know what you guys feel about my solution. Go and leave your thoughts and comments down below. Is my solution great or is it stupid and dumb? I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I would love to hear about it. But I'm one of those individuals that love to share solutions and ideas instead of just dwelling on the problem because, well, dwelling on the problem doesn't solve it. So I just want to simply share my perspective, as I would love to hear yours, because as we share a different perspective, we're going to come up with an awesome perspective that hopefully will be implemented to solve the ultimate challenge that we have today, and that is the student loan crisis. So if you guys liked my perspective or resonated with what I had to say, please do share my video as well as subscribe to our channel if you guys like what we have to share. And we have other videos about personal finance, how to get out of debt, investing in real estate, and all of our channel content is about helping you make more money. So that being said, go and smash the like button, subscribe, and appreciate and thank you for watching this video.